everybody. Welcome to the Center for Community Engagement's Community Chat, our first ever episode. This is our attempt to connect with you all as our students, as our community, and really take a chance to highlight the great work that's happening in our community, the great work that's happening here in our Gonzaga community, in our Northeast community, and in our Spokane community. So we have some great guests with us today. My name is Anthony Medina. I'm your host, Assistant Director for the Center for Community Engagement, joined always by the incomparable, the one and only, Catherine Collins. Catherine, can you introduce yourself?
For sure. My name is Catherine. I'm a senior and I'm a marketing intern at CCE, and I have been for the last 3 years, but we really haven't done something as fun as this. That's a lie. We probably have done fun things, but this is extra fun because I like seeing so many cool faces and finally meeting Brent and Pat. I don't know if we met in passing, but love the greenhouse. One of my favorite spots on campus. Anyways, I'm really excited to be here and to hear about Spokane because I'm in California and I kind of miss the small little second home. So, yeah.
Catherine, can you really quickly tell us where you're from, what year you are, and what you're studying at Gonzaga?
For sure. So I'm from San Rafael, California, which is where I am right now. I'm a senior, so I'm missing my friends and my roommates. A couple of them tuned in. Nice to have them here. And I'm studying international relations, but I think I like to focus on my concentration in social justice because that's a really big umbrella. So, so yeah, it's my undergrad specialty, I guess.
Awesome.
But I want to hear what everyone has been up to and what your official roles are. So if we wouldn't mind going down the line, maybe starting with Brent and then Emily and then Pat.
Yeah,
if you all want to introduce yourselves.
Catherine, I did want to do a little bit more for the show. Hi, Christina. Hi, Franny. A little bit more for the show, just to lay out what this is going to look like for folks. So for folks joining us right now, we have 3 wonderful guests with us, and Catherine will pass it over to them in a second to introduce themselves. We're going to be talking about the topic of food insecurity today in Northeast Spokane. We want this show to be an opportunity to learn about our community, highlight the positive things, highlight what's going on in really wonderful ways, and where some of the needs are in our community. We recognize that this first episode is pretty COVID-19 related. That's intentional. We can't not acknowledge what's happening right now, but we hope future episodes can focus on a wide variety of topics that don't only focus on coronavirus. We know that our students are kind of itching to hear what's going on in our community, but we also want to provide some positive, great stories about the people, the places, the work happening in our community. So that's what this show is about, and I hope that you'll enjoy. We have about 19 participants in the chat worldwide. We have guests coming from all over the country, coast to coast, international even. We have folks studying abroad listening in, I'm sure. I can't see them on the chat, but don't worry about that. We know they're all there. So Catherine, if you would, I'll pass it over to you to introduce our guests. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to let you all take it over and just give us an intro with telling us a little bit about yourselves and what your role is in Spokane. So yeah, let's start with that. Brent, you want to kick us off?
Hi, everyone. My name is Brent Perdue, and I am the principal at Logan Elementary School. The Logan attendance area encompasses the entire Gonzaga campus, as well as to the Green Street Bridge and up past Foothills. So that's my role in Spokane. I did, just want to let everybody know, I did do a year. When I became a teacher after my undergrad, I was the resident director at Roncalli Hall. So my wife and I got married in August and moved in right as school began. And so my first year of marriage was trying to support the needs of a full dormitory of male students. So that was quite an interesting first year of marriage. So I am an alum, so.
If you had one word to describe that experience, Brent, what would it be?
Outrageous. That'd be my word.
Outrageous. And Brent, what's one fun or strange activity you've done since being kind of quarantined during this time? What's one thing you've done that's been just for you during this time?
Well, I'm working on it. It's a work in progress. But I have written a song to, I think, Rupert Holmes's Escape. People might know that as the Pina Colada song, but I've changed the words. I'm working on the guitar and the drums, and I've got a college student who his school is also out, so he's home. He's done a lot of video production, so we are in the throes of that. So I'm hoping to get that out in the next couple days for my to my staff and such. It's just kind of funny and uplifting, and just kind of touches on all the challenges of being a teacher when you think about how difficult it might be for college students, but if you teach 6-year-olds and you're trying to connect with them, it's trying time. So that's what we're working on, and hoping to be able to post it to my little YouTube channel and send it out to staff and stuff. So that's been fun so far. I hope it turns out okay.
Very cool. Very cool. Em?
Hello, my name's Emily Banick. I am the program manager of the campus kitchen at Gonzaga. I have been in this role since January of 2008. Also alum, love the Gonzaga community, love the Logan neighborhood.
And what's one fun thing you've been doing during this time?
I have been, so I don't think a lot of people know this, but I'm a cross stitcher. I do ton of cross stitch, and I have been kind of is soothing to call me. Actually, it's right here. I can show you. It's 27 pages of solid stitching that I've been working on. It's a pirate kitty. So that's what I've been really like kind of focusing on. It's kind of relaxing, kind of calming. Yeah, Katie and I had a Gilligan's Island marathon last weekend. It's kind of fun to just have something that's not virus related. A little mindless. My daughter thought the show was pretty stupid, I think. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Em.
Yeah.
Pat, whenever you're ready.
Oh, not yet, Pat. You might be muted.
Yeah, let me unmute you there, Pat. 1 second. Okay, you're unmuted, Pat. You're unmuted. You can start over.
Okay. Well, my name's Pat Clelland, and I'm the resident district manager for Zag Dining in Sodexo. This is going into my 4th year working with passionate about local food stream and food systems and the sustainability on campus and just community engagement overall. And just very excited to be here. Thank you for letting me be here today.
Pat, do you have any fun home projects as well?
Pardon me?
Do you have any fun like home projects or strange things?
So I live on a small experiential homestead in Elk, which is about 45 minutes away, and I have a 14-year-old daughter who is homebound and losing her mind. So part of her phys ed activity, normally we have a couple of cows in a pasture, and we have to disperse cow manure automatic, with a machine. But instead, Cassidy and I have been spending quality time together, literally dispersing it by cow plop kicking. It's a very exciting time and a lot of physical activity and getting the job done.
Very cool.
Wow.
Well, thank you guys for joining us today. We have a few questions to go through, and I know Catherine's going to start us off with question number 2. So whenever you're ready, Catherine.
Yeah, so our first chat is focused around food insecurity in Spokane, particularly in light of COVID-19 and all the changes that that's brought to each of your lines of work. So from your perspectives, could you share a little bit about how that's showing up in your life?
Well, I think a lot of Gonzaga students and folks in the community probably don't know that the Logan attendance area is the highest impacted community in Spokane County. So 94% of our families qualify for free and reduced priced breakfast and lunch. That's so much so that the federal government actually considers us a community community provision school, which means that we don't even ask parents what they make. If they go to Logan, they get automatic free lunch and breakfast. So the way this has really impacted us is we're already the highest need area that there is. Many of our families work in service industries, so there's a lot who are already just kind of barely hanging on, and so they've lost their jobs, been laid off, that kind of thing. Those who are working, because some folks are at Walmart and various restaurants and such, they're just trying to struggle with being able to work and not having childcare because they're not really frontline workers. Typically, the state's requiring that we provide childcare for healthcare workers and some of the first responders. That doesn't really hit many of our families, but some of them still do have to work. So it's tough when you work in a place where if you don't work, you don't get paid. I'm sitting here and I'm still working. I can work remotely. Many of our higher income families in other schools in other areas of Spokane are still, they have paid leave. They're working from home, and so it's really showing up in that way. And one example is we had, most of you may know that Gonzaga, the campus kitchen supports a Tuesday Logan family meal every week. And last week, we had 125 meals that came, and we started at 5 o'clock and they were gone by 5:12. Wow. So the need's really, really there. And I think it's just going to get harder for folks as this drags on.
Wow. Thanks for sharing. Em, have you been seeing some of the same trends? I know you're also involved in that.
It has really changed. As we provide meals to House of Charity, many of the shelters in town. As this kind of swept through the city, the week, I think of it as kind of that week that the schools closed, that announcement on Friday. That was when my phone started ringing with the different partners we serve all over town, saying, we've had to change our rules. We can't have you coming down here. We are changing the way we're doing things. So now our focus is on the meals at Logan. As far as things I'm seeing, it's really making me recognize, these families, they're food insecure on a regular basis, on a regular week. They don't have the luxury of going to Costco and, stocking up on food, on toilet paper, on toiletries, things. That's really a privilege. So you've got food is tight regularly. Well, now they're really struggling. And, Brent touched on working at the Walmart jobs, if they are in the service industry and lucky enough to be able to be going in and making to-go meals, that puts them at a more vulnerable position health-wise as well. So it's kind of getting hit on all sides. And these are the people that are most vulnerable on a regular basis. So that's kind of where I've been noticing it.
Thanks, Em. Pat, how are you seeing things show up in the community from your perspective?
How's
There
that?
we go. Perfect.
Okay. So I've been spending a lot of time working fundamentally, through a lot of employee relations opportunities, helping our employees understand the dynamics of the unemployment process right now and where we're heading. And then also providing meals for the students that are still on campus in a social distance, safe, responsible manner. And then working with Emily, I can't say enough about the work Emily's doing out in the field through campus kitchens to get the food to the necessary, to the people who need it the most. And really, it's just been a very humbling experience, to say the very least. I spent some time yesterday up at the community center in the Hilliard district doing a food distribution. And it was actually heartbreaking to see some of the struggles, and I just saw that in the faces of the people who we were serving yesterday. It's, you know, it's inspirational to be able to do that work, and it's heartbreaking at the same time. So it's a double-edged sword as we wake up and do the work that we're doing. It's you know, and for me and for the staff and for everybody who's on this call and who's doing all the work in the community, it truly is living the values that, you know, we hold at Gonzaga University. That's why we're all here, why we're part of it, right? And spreading whatever we can positively out into the community.
Thank you all. To follow up, and some of you touched on some of this already, you mentioned some of the concerns. So what's currently being done for our listeners who aren't aware, who haven't been here in the office or on Zoom calls all this month? What's being done to address some of these real concerns? How is the Gonzaga community coming together, the Logan community, Northeast Spokane, and the city coming together to address this issue? What are some of the cool things that are happening to make sure people are being fed?
So at Logan, the outpouring of support started pretty much the day it was announced that school was going to be closing. When you think about all of our students getting free breakfast and lunch, typically that is the balanced meals that they have each day, and to have that just evaporate essentially overnight. We found out on Friday we had one more school day before schools were going to be closed for a minimum through the 27th of April. And so we, just thinking about some of our partners around the area, you know, we got called by No Lie Brewery, which is, you know, near Gonzaga there. And they started bringing food the next day because it's going to take a little bit of time, or it would have taken some time for our services to get up and running. So, and the thing they knew is we can only give food to the kids. And so, so they started bringing meals right away for the kids and families. 3 days later, the district federal food program was able to kick in. So now we're giving breakfast and lunches to kids, anybody under 18, but there's still this need because there are adults that are hungry. And so then, and then No Lie, their business was shut down because all restaurants that don't have takeout were closed. So they didn't have the ability without a funding stream to be able to continue that. Sodexo and GU stepped in and filled that gap for adults, and that's been going on in the last 2 weeks. And so there's just been this outpouring of support that's just been so amazing to be able to give not only the kids a meal, the kids get breakfast and lunch, and then we're able to give the adults a nutritious meal as well during that time. And they've been so supportive. And what I don't know, and I'm going to let the cat out of the bag because it's supposed to be coming out. We had applied for a grant. We didn't end up getting it, but we were trying to be able to have 1,000 meals a week to continue feeding adults in the Northeast. And that grant wasn't funded, but then we learned yesterday that a benefactor, a GU benefactor, has picked that, kind of picked up those reins and has pledged $25,000 to keep that going. So there's supposed to be a press release that's coming out today or tomorrow morning. I hope I didn't get ahead of things, but I thought it was important to know that there are just people coming around. We have other churches that are dropping off groceries. I had one call and say, hey, we have a line on 200 gallons of milk. Could you give this away tomorrow? And so we had another pulled up with an SUV full of toilet paper, which has just been a huge, I just can't fathom to be in a spot where your family, you're like, what are we going to do? We're out of toilet paper. It's been amazing to see people rally around, and it's just coming from everywhere.
Thanks, Brent. That was a hot take. That was an exclusive scoop, only here on Community Chat. So continue on.
Yeah, Brent and Pat and a bunch of us from CCE and pretty much all over Spokane have been on weekly meetings addressing food security and really looking at ways for the whole community to kind of get creative and fill the gaps that we're seeing in the neighborhood. And there are gaps that are interesting. I found we were all on a call, I think yesterday, maybe 2 days ago. I'm not sure. The days are getting a little bit squishy for me. But with the Barb she runs a food pantry in Northeast Spokane, and her talking about, I think she said there was 25% reduction in 2-person households that are showing up to pick up food, and looking for trends and thinking, she was thinking these were elderly couples that, you know, maybe they're afraid to go out. My parents are in that boat. They're afraid to leave the house. They've got vulnerable health conditions. And how do you connect food to those folks that need it? They still need the food, but really getting out of the house can be scary. You know? So looking at those, how do you fill those gaps? How do we get creative as a community and really look at what assets each player has and where those gaps can be covered?
And Em, I know from our office and from your team, April Lopez, one of our wonderful AmeriCorps, is working out at Second Harvest, supporting there during this time. And Austin Johnson, another great AmeriCorps. Hopefully we'll have Austin on the show sooner rather than later. If you're out there listening, Austin, we'll get you on. But
I think I saw Austin on here.
I think he is on here, but I don't think he'll show his face. So let's not pressure him just today. But get ready, Austin. Get ready. Pat, how are you seeing this?
Well, you know, so as you can see behind me, I'm in the greenhouse, the Gonzaga hydroponic greenhouse, and when this all happened, you know, we didn't really have the capacity to maintain it, but we figured out a way to keep this greenhouse active so that on Mondays we're going to be doing a Monday harvest, and we're going to be working with Emily through Campus Kitchens to see if we can get, last week we harvested 59 pounds of produce. So we can get, you know, the goal is up to 100 pounds on Monday so that we can get it out to the Tuesday distribution so that families can have some fresh produce. As Emily was talking about, people are really not having an easy time or want to be comfortable going into supermarkets, and they might be missing out on some of this produce that is part of their normal diet, especially K through 12 students. You know, how can we get it out to them? It might be a head of lettuce, but it's certainly fresh and something that we can keep doing with our team here. That's really exciting. I'll actually kind of zoom you into a project that we were working on for Earth Week. And there's about 500 tomato starts here that we were gonna use during the Earth Week celebration for students, and see how we can get those out next week as well. I think, you know, as well as food insecurity, it's also something physical for some kids to do, and even just kind of an idea that, you know, like we are literally planting seeds of change, right? We are all changing through this, and how do we all help each other change through this? So I thought that if we could give these out, it might encourage some of the kids and their families, you know, to do a window box garden or something like that. So we're trying to be innovative and creative through this. And how do we reinvent ourselves, right? So that's what's on my mind every day. How are we going to reinvent ourselves, and how do we come out of this thinking differently and acting and behaving differently? One of the things
I think we're losing you, Pat.
I mentioned yesterday, and I've been seeing it since this started, it is together to help everybody. It's just such it's an amazing experience to watch this whole Spokane city just pull together and take care of people. So, and then we're doing the Logan meals at night. We're just excited to be able to help any way we can.
Thanks, Pat. Catherine, do you want to hit us with question 4?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, I appreciate the notes of hope, and not like naively, but I think it's really cool to hear like you were saying, Pat, I think it's an awesome time for people to start getting creative about the way we're using, I don't know, our ability to mobilize and technology. And the tomato starts. Wow, I'm excited. Even like I can imagine all the small children just being like, I need to go check on mine today. And the parents being like, yes, go. I think I was just thinking about like my mom and my sister who are teachers and how much this is changing the way they're thinking about their work. How for you all has responding to the current crisis changed the way you think about your jobs? Go for it.
You know, what it reminds me, and it's thinking about schools, is that it's so much more than reading, writing, and arithmetic. That when we're working with kiddos, it's really around this notion of the whole child and the whole family, and nurturing this this piece, because we only have them for 6.5 hours a day, and then all of a sudden on a Friday you find out you're not going to have them back for 6 weeks, and it could be longer. And so we're in relationship building work, in the work of building safety and connection. The thing that I think my work has really been trying to keep the spirits of my teachers up, because, you know, we've created this very extensive spreadsheet where we're putting in information of kids we can't find. How do we help parents who were kind of engaging for the first few days and then they've stopped, and just knowing that this is pretty overwhelming for a lot of folks. So I mean, I think Maslow's, you know, that hierarchy of until your basic needs are met, that you really can't learn. So it's really helped us kind of think in new ways about how we continue to connect with folks. And I think it's also reminded us, because how important it is that, you know, people talk about, well, we could just go to all online learning. No one ever has to go to college. No one ever has to go to school. When you miss that personal interaction and connection, that so much is built on relationships. And there's, while I worry about if we had this, you know, pandemic 15 years ago, how much harder it would have been. This has been awesome to be able to connect with folks and see their faces. It's different when you're in person. And it just, I think it reinforces when we come out of this. And I think, you know, it's been mentioned before that I hope we come out of this better people. It's been neat to see people rally around each other. And I think it's helped people realize how important connection and relationships really are.
Yeah, I would echo that as well. Working at Gonzaga, we have a lot of relationship building that we do in our work as well. My helper, April, has been, we mentioned, she's down at Second Harvest. One of our students, she's a senior at Gonzaga. She works at Second Harvest regularly, and I was having my check-in with April on the phone shortly after she started at Second Harvest. And she said, hold on, there's someone that wants to talk to you. And it was our student Shelby. And I wasn't feeling teary at all, but the tears came pretty instantly. And that connection that we have with our students, that's a loss. You know, she's a senior that I may not see again, but yeah, I miss that too. As far as the work and how it's changed our work, I've always kind of thought about food and the power food holds, and it's pretty sacred, and kitchens are pretty sacred spaces. I've been spending a lot of time by myself in our kitchen space, and it's given me a lot of time to reflect on, you know, my own privileges around food and what the work that we're doing it means to folks and families. And if it's a little thread of stability, that it's one less thing to worry about on Tuesday night, one thing to take off your plate, then it's worth it. Pat, I love the idea of getting those tomato plants out to the students. It gives them, on so many levels, like to get a little bit touchy-feely, it's a little bit of a sign of hope. Seeing that plant, I wish from where I'm viewing, I can see straight into my kitchen, and I've got a whole bunch of tomato plants growing right there. But seeing them grow, there's something about watching that, and you know, teaching kids where food comes from is always a good thing. Giving them something to nurture during this time is a good thing. There's power in that. Anyway, before I get myself weepy.
And Pat? Hey, Pat, can you
For
hear
me,
us?
it's also
Okay.
teaching me. I had to slow down. I had to take this from the beginning. I found myself rushing into decisions and panicking. And at one point, I found myself. This is sort of a little story I'll share on this journey, because it's a journey for all of us. But I found myself stuck behind a snowplow a couple weeks ago, because where I live, there's snow on the backside of Mount Spokane. And, you know, I was on rushing to get to work. And all of a sudden, I got stuck behind the snowplow, you know, throwing sand out and everything. And so I had to slow down. And I found myself seeing things around me on this drive that I've made to work for 4 years through this mountain pass. I saw things that I never even saw before. And it was just a reminder to me that, you know, if we take this slowly and step by step, we're going to notice and feel and see things different.
Lost you a little bit.
Uncertainty. Crisis is also a moment of opportunity. And I think that's really where it's impacting me from a leadership perspective to really dig down deep, be very reflective on what everybody around me is going through, how everybody's feeling, understanding that it's all relative for everybody. One person's panic might not be my panic, but their panic is just as important as my panic. And how do we help each other get through it in a calm, fashionable manner? And it's groups like this, getting on the line, talking through it. The community calls that we have every week. We're working together to get people through their crisis while we're going through it ourselves. And I just think it's just, it's been a powerful moment for me, having the responsibility of being in charge of certain areas on campus and many, many people, to be able to help and learn about it myself too.
Again, thank you all so much for all of your responses. In light of our Jesuit mission as Gonzaga University, and you know, in the Jesuit lingo, we talk a lot about trying to find God in all things. I wanted to have our last question end on a positive note. In what ways have you all found joy in your work, hope in your work, not only in your work, but in your communities, in your networks, in your family life? Where have you found hope? Where have you found joy? And then Catherine, is there a second part to that question?
Yeah. And I guess too, something that I've been thinking about is just like the people. I feel like there's so many people I've taken inspiration from in the last few weeks of just like very peacefully, like responding to this very unpeaceful transition. Is there anyone that you would want to shout out in that, of like being the little unspoken angel in your day-to-day basis?
Well, I think that when we think about hope, I have just been amazed at the Spokane community and how people are rallying around those who are the most vulnerable in our community, because this could be a time where everyone is looking at their retirement accounts and because there's been this, you know, this, you hear about this rush, you can't find toilet paper in the stores, everybody's hoarding everything. The number of guns that are being purchased is way up because everyone's thinking it's all of this is coming. And in spite of all of that you watch on the news, my experience has been people coming from all around to help. Getting calls daily from our local churches, those meetings we have that actually were around Northeast community food insecurity were actually started by the folks at the Center for Community Engagement to kind of begin this process of how can we collectively work together. And so it's just been, like I said, when someone drives up and finds that our families are having a hard time getting toilet paper because many of them don't have cars. And so you can only go to where you can get to. And if they're totally out, or if they don't have, money to do it, you have people driving up, unloading toilet paper, unloading gallons of milk. And it was mentioned around fresh vegetables and fruit. We had some of those that we were giving out last week. The families, they light up because that's often something they can't touch at that time. So I've just been really amazed, and I think we've been very blessed that we haven't had this point where everyone just comes in and I've got to get all of my own. That people have really that just kind of reaffirms my belief in humanity and good things. And when I think about who's my unspoken angel, I would just, in my mind, it's really been the people that have been reaching out to us of our local churches, our partners right here with GU. We really wouldn't be doing more than just the handing out the breakfast and lunch just to kids if we didn't have such great partners in our community and specifically at GU. And of course, I've got to give out a shout out to this anonymous donor who's coming up with the money to fund us being able to keep giving meals to adults. Because while I'm very happy that we're feeding kids, we need to, if we're not helping the whole home, we're not helping the kids in the end. So.
I have a very specific place where I've kind of found a little bit of place to be a little spiritual and a little bit peaceful and a little bit hopeful. On the west side of St. Al's, the daffodils bloomed last week. That's going to get me teary. And I drive by them when I go to work, and I drive by them when I leave work. And they're a sign of hope and spring and kind of rebirth. What we got to look for.
I would say that, at this point, it's, as well as the Gonzaga community, it's my wife and my daughter who I think have a lot of patience with me right now. And I've been doing some work from home. And I got to tell you, it's, they're helping me get through my moments of panic and stress. And we're all, living together in a situation that we've not, I don't think ever have done before. And they're the ones that are getting me by. They're taking care of me, and they're helping me get to the place where I need to be every day as much as I can at Gonzaga when I can. And they're really
We might have lost you again, Pat.
I think you cut out there a little bit at the end, Pat.
enabling community. So me are the ones. So thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it. Well, that's all we have in terms of questions. We do have a few more minutes, like 2 or 3 more minutes. So if students and alum and guests have a question that they'd like to pose, we'll try to maybe take one if you're interested. But in the meantime, I did want to thank our guests for coming and joining us. For me, I've been so in the conversations and hearing what's been going on every day. And so I've been kept up to date so much. But I think for our students and for our community who may not be in those meetings, to not see all the awesome work that's coming together, all the people involved, all the different institutions involved, and not really seeing that hope on a day-to-day basis, I think this was really helpful and healing for me. just to hear from you all. So thank you for joining us. Some students have been asking how they could get involved and how they can help. And I know as a center, it's really difficult to not have our students be volunteering physically in the community. But because of the circumstances, we can't have that happen. But in the meantime, there are ways to still get involved remotely. And one of those is going to www.zagsgiveday.gonzaga.edu. There is a fund that's posted up there that will help the center, our center, and Opportunity Northeast, which is Gonzaga's place-based initiative in Northeast Spokane. It will help us meet the needs of our community members, our neighbors, in terms of food security, hygiene, and other necessities. So if you're interested in getting involved, or your families are, that's a great resource, a great way to do it. And as we think of other opportunities to become involved remotely, we'll keep you all posted. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat right now, and that's fine. We'll keep it there. But we do want to say thank you to all the participants who've come today. We had 24 people in the chat today listening in live, and we'll have plenty of more watching the recorded video. Really, honestly, we had coast to coast. We had Francis Argueta, a wonderful alum out in LA. We had Anna Ogilvy, who I think is out in New York. Are you out in New York, Anna, or are you back in your home?
I'm in Chicago, Anthony.
Chicago. Okay, still
Chicago. Hey.
Coast to coast, all over the world. We have some of the best listeners in the world, and I've gotten word that we've broken the Zoom servers. They've told us we have to shut down. There's just been too many people clamoring for this show. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it, and I think we'll call it a day there. For our students, if you have ideas for the show, for our community members, for our faculty, ideas for the show, topics you want to talk about, guests you want to have on, let us know. We'd love to hear it. Catherine, take us out. What else you got?
I would just like to say, Austin, we're still coming for you. And yeah, and I would echo that. Like we said before at the beginning, obviously COVID is touching a lot of things right now, but we want to be able to just come together and have chats about all sorts of stuff. So don't be afraid to bring anything to the table. Again, thanks so much, Emily, Pat, and Brent. This was awesome. Just to hear about all the little details of what's going on. And I'm grateful that I got to see everyone's faces.
Thank you all. We love you. We miss you, all of our students. We miss you so much. To everyone in the community, stay healthy, stay strong, stay inside. Thank you for everything. We'll see you hopefully next week with another episode. Maybe next week, maybe next month. We'll figure it out. Good night, guys.